Hi, I'm your host, Dave Kemp, and this is Future Ear Radio. Each episode, we're breaking down one new thing, one cool new finding that's happening in the world of hearables, the world of voice technology. How are these worlds starting to intersect? How are these worlds starting to collide? What cool things are going to come from this intersection of technology? Without further ado, let's get on with the show. All right, so we're joined here today by Tim McElreath. Tim, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Hi, thanks, Dave. Pleasure to be here. I am Director of Emerging Technology for Discovery, and Discovery, of course, being a entertainment brand, Discovery Channel, Food Network, HGTV, a ton of different content channels across TV and mobile. And I have been working with a team to build out voice and conversational applications for about 4 years now.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And so, as he mentioned, Discovery being the parent company of the Food Network. For those of you who may have heard the first two episodes that I did with Catherine Prescott, we actually talked a lot about this new service that's tied to the Echo line of devices, which is this Food Network kitchen. And so after that, I actually got in touch with Tim, and Tim is part of the team that actually built this app. So it's a really cool model, and we're going to talk through it. But why don't we start, Tim, with giving us a little bit of a background on how the idea really came about for the Food Network kitchen?
All right. So we've been working on different delivery channels for Food Network content for a long time. We have had a very successful mobile app. Of course, we're very successful on linear TV and on the web. Our direct-to-consumer group recognized that we need to kind of change the way we deliver content based on the way that customers are really consuming content differently these days. We do very successfully in linear TV, but that's not really the future of what we're going to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So we really had to do sort of a deep rethink on what the Food Network brand means and what the value is we're trying to deliver to customers. And I was very happy that we decided to take kind of a really bold change to what we're doing. We are now offering a subscription product. Everything that was free, all of our free content prior to this is still free. So if you're using the previous app or website, all of your stuff is still there. But we decided that in order to make the subscription valuable, we were going to start producing additional content. And instead of just being a lean back, watch TV experience, we were going to become more interactive. So as well as being an entertainment provider, we're also going to be an education provider. So we are now going to be giving on-demand cooking classes, as well as live cooking classes and premium step-by-step recipes. So the idea is across all of our platforms, mobile, connected TV, and voice multimodal on Amazon Alexa, is that we were going to provide a consistent experience across all those platforms to allow our users to be able to be inspired and select recipes, be able to do their shopping, and then also go over to their kitchen counter and be able to make them, or learn how to make them and become more comfortable in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, like that was a total aha moment, because you made a good point there with like going from the sit back experience where you're watching television and you're watching, Bobby Flay show you how to cook something, and then now you're making it into this interactive model. And I think that's been something that's been touted for a while now, is like this new interactivity that some of these new platforms are giving rise to. And I think that what your service does is it ultimately takes that sit back experience and it makes that really interactive, whether it be, like you said, the on-demand cooking experience or these live cooking classes, and this idea of it's almost like a Peloton type experience where you're in a classroom, if you will, virtually, because you're in your own kitchen. And I think that's just really interesting because, again, it goes to this point of, it speaks to, I would love to be a better cook, but I don't really know where to begin. And maybe just a traditional cookbook isn't really for me. But if I'm given the opportunity to actually sort of in step, go, I got all my ingredients set aside, I got all my prep tools, and I'm watching Martha Stewart or whoever it would be. I'm following along in class with them. That is really, really compelling to me. And I can totally see how that is like an evolution of a lot of the stuff that you guys have already been doing, traditionally.
Right. And what we're really leaning in toward is the trust that our customers have in us, be
Mm-hmm.
there a marquee talent like a Giada or a Bobby Flay. But we also have, a ton of culinary talent internally here at Food Network. I'm sitting here at our offices in Chelsea Market, and our studio is upstairs where the actual kitchens are. And we have, a ton of expert culinary and research talent
Mm-hmm.
on specific areas, from grilling to baking to just about anything you'd want to do. So we provide trusted experience so that that when you're taking a class or you're taking a recipe, it's been vetted. And I think, as you're saying, one of the kind of exciting parts of what we're doing are these live classes. So here we are doing anywhere between 4 to 6 live broadcasts a day from our New York studios, our LA studios, and out in location. And besides the fact that they're live, and they're kind of a different quality to a live broadcast than
Yeah.
a show or an on-demand class. I've actually enjoyed them even more than I thought I was going to. We have some people who are just great live.
Yeah.
I think specifically like a chef like Michael Simon, who's just an amazing raconteur and just incredibly entertaining just to listen to him talk while he's cooking.
Yeah.
And just to hear the stories and even see like little things that go wrong make it a little bit more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Just knowledge that somebody's cooking live in front of you. It's a little bit like watching NASCAR.
Yeah, right.
And on top of that, there's the interactive portion. So on our mobile and connected TV platforms, we have a Q&A function. So you can actually type in a question while the live class is going on, and a moderator will feed that to the talent who's giving the demonstration, and you could get an answer back.
Mm-hmm.
Or you'll if it's a specific question and the talent doesn't have time to respond, we'll have somebody in our culinary department actually respond to you.
That's awesome. That's a really cool feature.
And this is something that I said is on mobile and connected TV. We're working with Amazon to figure out how to bring that experience to Echo Show as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can watch live classes on Echo Show right now. That feature is available. The interactivity is something we're going to be working on as being kind of a marquee feature, because you can imagine, you're taking a cooking class, you're going along on your kitchen counter, and you just using your voice can just ask a question, and a minute or two later, Giada answers your question live.
That's so cool.
That would be a really cool feature.
Yeah.
I think both we at Food Network and Amazon recognize that that's going to be something that we really want to lean into next year. And then there's also a lot of possibilities with social aspect. The fact that we take Peloton as a model. The attractive thing about taking a Peloton class is not only the interaction with the teacher, but the fact that you really feel like you're with a group of people having this experience at the same time, and how we can lean into that social aspect, so that if you and your friends want to take a class at the same time, can we provide something that's more like a Twitch experience, so you can have conversations between each other and with the presenter at the same time.
That's so cool. My my mind is going a million directions right now, because it's like everything that we were just talking about with the interactivity aspect of this. We're really starting to see it with something like this. And I'm going back just to my childhood, where my older sister growing up was obsessed with the Food Network, like all the time. That's what she'd be watching on TV. And I think about like that next generation that they can be introduced to this in the same way that she was introduced through linear TV. But now it's just like you said, where it becomes whether it's a social thing where, that next generation with their friends, they're cooking alongside each other, or they're all in the same class with Giada and they're cooking the same dish. It really opens up a really exciting new opportunity. And, just given how centric food is to culture, and how cool it would be if more people felt like they were empowered to cook a really good meal. That's really exciting to me.
Right. And one of the nice things about food is that people tend to eat every day.
Yep.
It's great for habit forming, but it's also, I mean, more than just the habit of having to eat. There's a lot that's tied into food in
Yeah.
people's lives. It feeds into their aspirations, it feeds into their anxieties, it's all of their special occasions, the way they take care of their families, the way they take care of their health, um, even the way they feel like an adult. Uh,
Yeah.
there is some people may be more passionate about cooking than others, but I think there's for most of us, we want to be able to feel like we can go into a kitchen and be able to know our way around and make the things that are at least the basic stuff that is important to us, and
Mhm.
then maybe learn a little bit more. um,
Totally.
if you have special occasions coming up, if it's a Valentine's Day, if you want to know about grilling, um, and you can really feed into people's passions, and also just make them feel less anxious about how they're doing something that they have to do every day.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think that, this idea that, you're going to have these experiences and these ability to, um, be empowered to do that. I just think it's really cool, especially as you're getting started out. It might be overwhelming and it might be intimidating that you're like, I'm a terrible cook. And so therefore I'm just going to rely on cooking the same 10 things that I've always known how to cook in microwave meals or whatever it might be. But, one of the things with this, I think the other side of this that I think a lot about is just how much this represents the evolution of voice technology and adding in this like multimodal layer where you have the screen. I think like this really clicked for me in my mind where you take the smart speaker, and I think initially it's like it represents this thing that it can do a number of things, but people sort of rely on it for like the same five things. But like over time, you start to realize like, well, I guess I could do this with it and I could do that with it. But really to this point, it's performing the same type of tasks that I had traditionally been using other technology for, whether it be like checking the weather, checking the time, or asking a question, playing music. But what this does is it really does start to open into new use cases that we haven't really tapped into before, which is you have the screen, you have the live element of the Peloton type cooking experience, and then you have the voice commands. And I know before we started recording here, you may mention that like the ultimate goal here is to be able to cook a meal without even having to touch the screen. But I know that there's going to be some challenges with getting there. So can you speak to a little bit about like what those challenges are, and how you plan, into 2020 and beyond of solving some of these things so that you could ultimately build an experience like this that you don't even need to ever really touch the device.
right. Well, we've been working on Food Network on voice platforms for about 4 years now. We
Okay.
started a year into after Alexa was launched, and I think of those the 4 years up until this application as being kind of year zero. We're It was a lot of trying to figure out how the platforms worked, what their limitations were, and how people really wanted to use them, because even Amazon and Google had were only taking a shot in the dark on how people were going to be using these voice and voice first uh, platforms. So we were trying, we initially built out, recipe search and, being able to view or listen to recipe ingredients and directions as part of a custom Alexa skill, which we started bumping up against the limitations of what you could do in a skill, a third-party developed skill. For example, you had to be in a continuous back and forth with the skill, which is not really the way people cook. It's start and stop. You have to get a piece of instruction, you have to wait 5 minutes while you're doing it, or put something in the oven for 20 minutes, and that's really not the way skills are designed to work. There also is the need to be able to go back to a piece of content immediately. If something times out, you need to go right back to your recipe in a way that doesn't feel like there's any friction.
Mhm.
Um, and then there's also trying to build out a language model to be able to do all of the searching by ingredient, searching by talent name.
Mhm.
If any skill developers or voice developers out there can imagine that that is a bear of a language model to try to build. And we had some success, and I think we're getting pretty close, and we learned a lot. Now where we are is really looking at what is people's expectation for an easy experience using a screen without their hands in order to get through a recipe in a way that feels more natural, more comfortable than pulling out their phone. And I have one friend who puts their phone in a Ziploc bag on their counter so it doesn't get wrecked.
It does get all messy.
Or printing out a piece of paper. And we're now partnering with Amazon. We're using their recipe cook along experience, which solves a lot of that problem of being able to navigate steps and being able to query ingredients and directions individually. Because when you're in the middle of the recipe, you may be on a step, but you may be stepped away from the device, and you need to remember what temperature to preheat the oven, or how much of a certain ingredient. And we should be able to facilitate just asking for how many cloves of garlic, or how hot should the oven be, or so on and so forth, without having to go and scroll back through all of the ingredients and directions.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we are. So our North Star here really is like, can we put a person who's not non-technical in front of one of these devices, have them bring up a recipe and successfully complete it without having to frustrate them with the platform? And we're getting there. I can't say that we're 100% there yet, but I think that we're a lot closer now. And it's starting to feel like this is really going to be the right answer for a lot of people. I think the other part of this application that really excites me is the fact that the multimodal voice first screens are really part of a larger application infrastructure, so that people can decide where they're going to interact with us based on their situation. Like if you're out shopping, you can pull out your Food Network Kitchen app, and you'll get that recipe, and you'll be able to get the ingredients if you want to shop, and then save it, walk over to your kitchen counter when you get home, bring up your saves, and that recipe is there, so you can use it hands-free to actually make it, because that's a situation where a smart screen really shines.
Yeah.
Or you can go over to your TV if you want the more lean-back experience of watching a TV episode, or just watching a cooking class rather than actually participating in it.
No, I think it's so cool. I think you guys are totally on the forefront in terms of how you take your bread and butter, what's worked, and then taking it and trying to come up with what does that look like in the next 5-10 years. And I think you're well on your way of making something that is really a really exciting experience. And I hope that you get there to the point to where you said that a non-technical person can walk up to this thing and say, open the Food Network Kitchen, and then boom, they're searching through whoever they want to cook along with, whether it be live or on demand. That to me, you give a couple good experiences like that to somebody, and I think they realize that these type of multimodal voice first devices are in a class of their own. There's something different than what we've seen before.
Right. And that's another thing that really excites me about this is, if we can make this experience good enough for people to want to use it on a regular basis and make daily habits out of using it, then they get more comfortable with using these voice and multimodal screens, and then they end up on the kitchen counters, or in their living rooms, or in their bedrooms. And now you have the habit of using them, and now you're looking around to find out what else we can use them for.
Yep.
So, it's kind of a rising tide lifts all boats. If it helps us out. If people get more comfortable using multimodal screens, it helps us out, because they're more likely to use them for recipe and food preparation. But if they use them for recipe and food preparation, now what other brands can start inserting themselves in there and using the same model. The other thing that I think is exciting about this is, we're creating different types of first party experiences that I think will eventually be able to be leveraged by other brands and other developers. for example, the way we're doing live classes, building out the, custom landing pages with countdowns and metadata, doing the live streaming with interaction.
Totally.
I could see that use case being used for, Discovery is the parent company of Eurosport. I'd love to start doing live
HGTV.
HGTV. Yeah, but especially with the on-demand classes. I mean, an on-demand recipe or an on-demand recipe class could be transferred over to a home how-to.
That would be very, very helpful for myself personally. I would love that.
and not just within our own brands. Like if we can template out a generic way of doing video step-by-step how-tos with instructions and equipment, that could be surfaced for other brands who are doing anything from exercise training to arts and crafts, things like that, so that it becomes the Alexa platform becomes a more robust how-to platform. So I'm hoping that some of the work we're going to be doing over the next year really expands what developers across the board are going to be able to do on the Alexa platform.
Tim, I could not agree more. This was awesome. I love it. I love everything that you guys are doing, and I'm completely in agreement with you. I think that you're paving the way for a lot of different ways in which people think about how these different tools can be used. So thank you so much for joining me today, for coming on the show. Thank you for everybody who tuned in, and we will chat with you next time. Cheers.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Future Ear Radio. For more content like this, just head over to futureear.co, where you can read all the articles that I've been writing these past few years on the worlds of voice technology and hearables and how the two are beginning to intersect. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll chat with you next time.